This last chapter is the Chemo Flush, or the chemotherapy flush, as taught to me by Reverend Rosalyn Bruyere in the early 1990s. The last millennium. It is useful for chemotherapy. It is also extremely useful for antibiotics, anesthesia, any kind of chemical or toxic exposure. Could even be an emotional or a spiritual trauma. The point of the procedure is that the chemotherapy is a salt. It's a chemical. All salts, as crystalline elements, have a field, have a, let's say, an energetic signature unique to that salt. Reverend Bruyere's feeling and her teacher's feelings were that many, if not most, of the side effects were contained in the energetic signature and not in the chemical itself. So if the person could be infused with the chemical, gain the therapeutic effect of the chemical, and we could somehow remove or flush out the energetic signature, the energetic counterpart, that the person would have a much better, not necessarily therapeutic outcome, but a quality of life outcome, much less side effects. And I've probably done this with hundreds of people in the 15, 20 years since I was shown this, and the results have been extraordinary. So I'm showing it to you. I'm probably not going to, this probably isn't part of the Omega class, just because it's such a simple procedure. It's something that's so profoundly helpful. Nothing comes close to doing what this does. And I figure the more people that know it, the more people that do it, the more their clients are benefited from. So if you've got people in your practice with that are taking chemotherapy, if you've got people in your practice who've got toxic exposure, if you believe you're treating a lot of PTSD people, then this procedure is going to be very useful for you. The phrase that describes this procedure the best is an engineering phrase from civil engineering, which goes, "The solution to pollution is dilution." That's simple. So what I'm going to do, step one, is I'm going to ground into the earth. I'm going to create basically a drain. And at some point, when I engage Earth Mother, the drain, engaging from my pelvis and the root chakras in my feet, is going to engage the earth, and she will start pulling. The sink that the earth is will start pulling chi through me. And as I start to feel that tug, that suction from below, and I'm engaged with Joanne here, it starts to pull chi from her field. So step one, we create the drain. Step two, we engage Earth Mother. She creates a suction. Nature abhors a vacuum, so she starts sucking through us. Then we start pulling through our clients' bodies. The next step is we invite our guides, our spirit teachers, perhaps the persons on the tables, to come and stand with us and run chi into their field. So you have this great machine, if you will, this great system, where I've created the driving force, which is the earth working with this drain. The drain's pulling, and I have generally 5 to 7 beings, usually in spirit, standing one at the head of the table, 2 at the shoulders, 2 at the hips, 2 at the legs, running chi through her as she's flowing chi through me and down into the earth. Now, I probably felt a couple of you go, what? The chi from the client is going to flow through me? If we are in a conjoint field and we are out of the way, then no harm can come to us. If we are exposed to this toxic field, we might taste something, we might feel something, we might smell something, but as the chi flows through us, we will be cleansed and flushed and purified along with them. So there's a kind of a benefit to us, and it will actually help clear your field, which is another nice benefit. So let's just see what it looks like. It's not going to look like much unless you can see energy through this video, but I'm going to start grounding with my feet, grounding with the taproot from my pelvic floor that goes into the earth, down, Now, I didn't say, which I think I should just mention, is I've on my books. That's just how I begin everything, so sometimes I take it for granted and just forget that it's there. I create a ground, and then I feel a tug. I've created this drain, and I feel this tug starting to pull onto the taproot and the chakras of my feet. And I come on. I invite my guidance, my teachers, and Joanne's to come and participate in this by running chi through Joanne. Now, I don't need my hands on her if we're in a conjoined field, but it's not a bad thing. So let's just go ahead and do that. And I start to feel this tug on her field, through my field, as I surrender to this flow into the earth. I was told by Reverend Bruyere, if I'm up in a building like I am here on the 6th floor, that I ask that nobody below me be affected in any way by the chi flowing through the space on its way to the earth. The flow has begun to accelerate. So even if somebody hasn't had a toxic exposure, they will flush. It's a physiological process. And the speed of it, sometimes the person on the table feels it when it's happening. Sometimes they only feel the results. And I'm going to talk you through the whole procedure because it has a very specific endpoint. Joanne lives in New York City and works in New York City, so we're all exposed to a certain toxic load here. So there's a certain amount of flushing occurring, and that's just normal for human beings walking on Earth. At some point, the velocity of the flush will slow down. It's almost like, well, it's not almost like, this machine, if you will, this mechanism of the flush, is a living thing connected to the consciousness of Earth Mother. As Earth Mother starts to feel the sense of the energy getting clearer, less is sucked, less drains. And as less drains, the flush slows down. Now it's starting to reverse, where there's actually sort of a backwash, if you will, of energy coming up from the earth through me, nourishing me, filling and nourishing Joanne. You can feel it sort of swirling around. There's a kind of kinesthetics of this sort of undulating, oscillating, washing of the chi. And at some point it will quiet down as she is filled completely. And as her consciousness reorganizes the field with in relationship to breath and midline, you'll suddenly feel a large breath. A breath that extends from her midline out to the horizon. If that's useful, it'll just feel like now just a progression of pristine breaths. Now this is the basic chemo flush procedure as taught to me. There are adjunctives. If you find yourself using this as a really, really essential part of your practice, and lots of people are being helped, this is one of the places where the stone people, the stone beings, can be incorporated. And there's some very specific stones that I use. But I'm not going to go into that now. It's for another conversation, another class, another time. But you're welcome to contact me and we can discuss it. All right, thanks very much.